Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm so sorry about the delay in starting stream. Um, I noticed that my VPN was not properly connecting shortly before the start of stream, and I was so focused on trying to make sure that I got Twitch enhanced broadcasting enabled that I completely forgot that my VPN needed to be turned on, and then found that my VPN was not working properly. So I do deeply apologize for starting a bit late. Um, and I will also apologize. I may have to end a little bit earlier than usual. Normally on Friday stream, I would end at 10 o'clock. And though I am not feeling my best, it's more of a my sister is moving and spent a good amount of the day at her place and working on some things there and dealing with my daughter who did not get a whole lot of sleep and or well, not a whole lot of sleep. By not a whole lot of sleep, I mean she did not sleep, and she was absolutely exhausted, and it was definitely a joy getting her home and trying to convince her, no, 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 you cannot sleep quite yet, because it's only 5 o'clock. It is not time to go to sleep yet, because she fell asleep on the way home. But for tonight, it is still going to be a pretty chill stream, working on finishing setting up my free company house with the setup. So I had left this here. I should have put it away so that way it wasn't glaring and in the way of my free company members while I was still finishing decorating. But I want to get some things up in this little nook that we set up last Sunday. And I also want to, up here in the kitchen area is very blah at the moment. Like it's started and we've started putting some things together, but I would definitely like to make this space feel a little bit more cohesive. Up before now, for anybody who has missed anything, we built this classroom area. Parts of this are a recreation and parts of this are completely new. The recreation involved like the little storybook chairs, the chalkboards, but like some of the things, like I threw these posters up here, created a little timeout desk there, and recreated this space to be more of a younger space for those that need to be treated like they are younger. Whether it be that they are younger, whether they are misbehaving. We also worked on this space over here. With this space, the wooden wall is created with turning around the skylights. With those skylight partitions, they typically mount up on the wall. These are hanging backwards, so that way the back is exposed and it looks more like a wooden wall. The backs of these shoot, my brain is spacing what they are called, but there are these I have to click on it to see what's called, the white screens. The backs of the white screens look very nice, but the thing is that the white screen has this arch to it and it makes it stick out, and I didn't want to lose that space, so instead I used these panels or the skylights, so that way they wouldn't stick out quite as far into the room and I wouldn't lose quite as much space. With that though, some of these things had to be hung in a very particular manner. Like the windows are hung backwards, so that way they don't snap to the actual wall. Other things are actually hung up on the wall. For instance, these planters here are actually on the wall directly and not on not floating and not on these, which hides the stone planters that are there. back here, the vendors are all really short, so they are accommodated because for those of you who have been able to watch my Sprout streams, my Sprout alt that I have been doing for stream is a Lalafell, and I am constantly complaining that places like Gridania and Limsa do not properly accommodate our short friends. So in this house, we properly accommodate them. They have stools that they could stand on, so that way they could see properly over the counter instead of being stuck behind a counter and not properly seeing. Because our Loporrit friends, just like our Lalafell friends, are very short. And down here in the basement, let me close out of that to get it out of the way. We have an ode to what Aetheris has now become from the Loporrits. The Loporrits have created this dance floor for us and have this nice little DJ stand here. Hey, Fruit Juice Box, good to see you. But we have this nice DJ stand. One of the things that was the pain in the butt with this particular thing here was properly accommodating our Loporrit friend in a way that he could properly see over the counter here. That's why he's actually off center at the moment, because I didn't want to deal with the pain in the aspect of fixing him to properly be centered here without dealing with other aspects of the house. But I accommodated him by giving him a step stool to be able to step up onto his accommodation. And then he could stand on this taller bar stool. I actually think this is a vintage end table instead of even a bar stool. Like I think that this is actually taller, like it's actually a full-on table technically. But he is lifted all the way up so that way he could properly see and, you know, host the party. And then we have his supports over here to the side. I am going to fix this support here because this one is like facing forward. And it's always hard to tell with the... Thank you so much. It's always hard to tell with the vendors exactly how they're going to... properly like look, because like that one had looked forward, but I had them like when they're in this dummy mode, they looked like they were angled about the same, and now this one is angled a lot more than my one on the right here, but now they both look properly angled. Right now he did sync. He will, when I reload in, so I'm gonna run and load to a different area. Which you could go outside, you could go to a free company room. Hey, Euler. You could go to a free company room. You could go anywhere else just to load something else. So that way you could load back into the house. And he should properly show up back on that platform. He's not going to be sunken into the platform. So like any mats or anything like that, you will see that anything that's supposed to sit on the floor will properly rise up to be on the mat. So like if you're trying to lift something up off of the floor, for instance, if I really wanted to lift up a partition, so if I wanted to lift up a partition, for instance, which I haven't really done a lot of complex partition lifting here, right? Like I showed, I think it was last stream, if not last stream, then at some point last week, I was showing that that spreadsheet that was talking about the minimum height and how quite a few partitions are the hardest things to lift up because they have such a small amount of wiggle room for lifting them up. Getting those started, let's see. I'm just going to throw a partition here just to have it. So I'm just going to use this rectangular partition as an example. And let's say I want to lift this up. And I'm going to use my trusty stage panel to lift it up. And for lifting it up, to help me out, I'm going to make sure that this hitbox where the cross is at, I want to make sure that it is close to the stage panel, so that way my what I'm using will properly lift it up. But I also don't want to, whoops. I don't want to place it too close. Like, you can place it next to the hitbox of the stage panel. Just know that if you do, you're going to end up lifting up the stage panel. And then you can, to get it started, place a flooring mat, and then when you hit escape, like you would normally do for lifting up other pieces, you'll see that actually it ended up being that in this case, it's very, very, very slight, but both the stage panel, you can kind of see it better with the stage panel than you can with the rectangular partition because of those, dang it. Oh my gosh. Because of those bolts that are holding on the canvas onto that stage panel, you can actually see them underneath of here now. But it is ever so slightly off of the floor now, making it a little bit easier to get this this shelf underneath. And you'll see that my stage panel is snapped back down. Now when I'm looking at the bottom, I don't see those bolts. And now you can see a little bit more clearly that this partition is properly off of the floor. So like if you are doing some decorating and do need to do one of the more challenging partitions, start off with lifting it off the ground with a rug. Typically, I do the flooring mat. That one's going to be your most reliable rug for getting things off the floor. And if I recall correctly, those are a vendor item. Actually, we just look right here. Yeah, so you could get it from the housing merchant. Really, really, really easy to get a hold of. And then you could continue. Don't go any further than the thickness of the lip of this Riviera shelf. With the exception of the factory partition, like I went into before, which I'm going to do the typical twist. And I'm going to go to Zay's room. Unless you are doing these factory partitions, and the factory partitions, it's a little bit thinner than the edge of that shelf. The factory partitions can't go up any further per lift than the bottom thickness of this partition. Pretty much everything else can go the thickness of the edge of that Riviera shelf. This is ever so slightly thinner than that, and that's what makes these factory partitions, lifting them up, such a royal pain in the ass. Okay. Yeah, and as you can see, it still managed to stay lifted up. It's off the ground. Okay. So, I didn't want to lose that random tangent, but I want to ask you all, how are you all doing on this wonderful, fantastic Friday before a holiday? How are you all doing? I hope you're all doing awesome. I'm going to get that one out of the way. It doesn't need to be there. Oh, I guess actually I could leave that in my inventory. Yes! Awesome! So glad you have a 4-day weekend. That is awesome to have time off. I absolutely love it. And what a time to have some time off, you know? Like, it's great time. So glad you get to have some time off for all this, because I know not everybody gets to have the holiday off. But so glad, so glad you get to take some time off, relax, and enjoy the holiday. Hopefully there it's not like here where this entire weekend it's supposed to storm. Like today, it like there's potential for a storm tonight. Um, but like all day tomorrow and all day Sunday here, it's supposed to storm and it's supposed to get like really nasty. Um, so I'm like, yeah, yeah, that would be how it would go around here. Nice. That's awesome. I love Reaper. Oh, you are going to have an absolute blast playing Reaper. Like, that was such a fun job. And I can just imagine how fun that's going to be playing in that Stormblood content. Like when you get to that. But I mean, even still, like, the second half of Heaven's Ward, like, I think that will also be fun as Reaper. Actually, you know what? I actually think the second half of Heaven's Ward as Reaper would be more fun than Stormblood as Reaper. Both of them pretty dang fun though. Like, but that is awesome. Heaven's Ward is such a good story. I feel like Heaven's Ward was really when I started getting hooked into Final Fantasy 14. Like, A Realm Reborn, like, didn't capture me. It was sort of I needed something to play, and I was just sort of lost on a game for a little while, and then I hit Heaven's Ward, and I was like, oh shit, this is actually really good. Oh, you are it. Yes, that is such a good part to be in. Like, like I feel like that's where it really starts sinking its teeth into you, and it's like, yes, you are going to enjoy this game. You are going to love this. Uh, like it's so good. Um, Now, I will say I am definitely biased. I think Shadowbringers is the best one. But Heaven's Ward, man, Heaven's Ward was so good. Um, and Endwalker was also like really, really good. Like those are my top three, hands down. And I think a lot of people would agree that those three, it tends to be those three somewhere in the top three. Hey, Levy. Okay, let's see. Okay, I need to move. I need to move this out of the way. Yes, like I think it's definitely a good thing to have high expectations for them. Like Stormblood, I will say Stormblood was not my favorite. Yes, Shadowbringers definitely. I definitely agree with you, Nem. Shadowbringers is peak. Um, but Heaven's Ward's still pretty damn good, as was Endwalker. Um, and I felt like with them, I had some pretty high expectations, particularly with Shadowbringers. And I mean Endwalker, I was already playing the game and was already hyped up from watching or streaming FanFest and all that stuff. But with Shadowbringers, I already had high expectations from all the good things that I had heard about it, and like shit, like it blew those expectations out of the water. It was so good. Like I absolutely loved it. Okay, okay, and now I'm like, I really, damn. Now do I want? Because now I don't even want to put these basic chairs in here. Because now talking about Shadowbringers, like, I really. Let's see. Uh, Damn it. I kind of wanted to put these Crystarium benches in there, but I don't know that they're going to quite look right. I don't know. I don't know. I think that they're too blue. And it doesn't look like... Oh, I could... Oh, okay. Never mind. I might be able to make this work. I think that is fair. I would save that judgment for when you get to post Stormblood and kind of start getting a taste for what's to come in Shadowbringers, and then make that judgment. At least, like, that's my general recommendation, is kind of use that time. I do think Reaper is a solid choice for Shadowbringers, but also so is Dark, because that's what Meteor is. Like, your MC in all the promos is the Dark Knight. But I honestly think that either one of those jobs is a solid job for Shadowbringers. But wait until you get to post Stormblood and then sort of make that decision. So during that expansion was when I first started playing. So when I actually got to the Shadowbringers content, I started playing Dancer, because I hadn't branched out very much. I came from World of Warcraft, and I had really bad tank-anxiety. So Dark Knight was an absolute no for me, as was any of the tanks. Like, I unlocked Gunbreaker, and I thought Gunbreaker looked interesting, but it was an absolute hell no was I going to tank for other real people, because I was way too anxious about it. And I also had heal anxiety, less so than tank anxiety, just because I had done a little bit more healing in World of Warcraft, but I also knew there was just such a huge difference between how healing works in World of Warcraft as opposed to Final Fantasy XIV, especially when it comes to your mana. Like, it's a lot easier to manage your mana in Final Fantasy XIV, but then you're also expected to juggle a lot more things than you are in World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft, you're at least when I was playing it, you're mostly expected to just heal, but then, especially at low levels, at that, yes, I was like, no, I'm not taking for real people. And at the time, they didn't have the bot system aside from the actual Shadowbringers dungeons. But by that point, I was like, I didn't feel super comfortable quite tanking. Like, I was like, you know what, I want to go through these dungeons and see a bot tank this and kind of see how it handles different things before I kind of start trying to learn these fights and everything. Because especially coming from World of Warcraft, like, thinking back in Cataclysm, there were so many things that you had to, like, detail out and plan to a T. Like, you had to have certain DPS for that crowd control, and the tank was typically coordinating all of the crowd control. And say, like, because I played a rogue in World of Warcraft, and they would be like, okay, so you need to stun this NPC before we pull it. Okay, here's a frost mage. I need you to ice block this particular piece of trash, and then this one that's going to come up as the rogue, it was my job to interrupt with kick, and had all of that maintenance. And so it was something that I wanted more of an opportunity to be able to study all that. But we don't have that much of a worry in Final Fantasy XIV. So it took me a long time to unlearn all the anxiety that I had. Because it was just, I'd been playing World of Warcraft for years, and that fear was just really instilled in there, and it was hard to shake it off. And realize that this is a different game than that. Even though they're both MMOs, like, same genre, it's just so different. So if you don't have tank anxiety, especially, like, I definitely think dark is an excellent pick. But for me, because of my tank anxiety, like Reaper wasn't an option at that point. But between those two, thinking of what I would have ended up doing, knowing how anxious I was about all of that, and I also was just at a different place in my life. Like I didn't have treatment for my anxiety, and like I didn't have my daily anxiety medication. I also have an as needed anxiety medication, and thinking about how my anxiety affected me, how I didn't have it treated and everything, I totally would have ended up playing Reaper. Yes, yes. The Final Fantasy 14 community is so fantastic because they honestly are super helpful. And yeah, so long as you tell people that, like, if you immediately go in, say hi, first time, what should I look out for? Typically, someone in the party is going to be helpful. It's very rare for you to get people that are toxic or anything like that. Like, the closest I've gotten was people were like, oh, of course the healer's new to this. Or, oh, great, of course both healers are new to this. Because typically, like nowadays, I've been playing healer for like new, like when I go to a dungeon fresh, or if I go into a trial fresh. Because now I'm spoiled by the fast queues for healer. And on top of that, not gonna lie, I have found I absolutely hate playing melee DPS in a dungeon in this game. If it's a single boss trial, I'm fine with melee DPS. I hate switching to the AoE rotation. I just do. I I just hate it. Like that's the short answer on that. I hate playing melee DPS in dungeons. I just do. And so now I typically play healer, and like sometimes you get those people that are like that, but then it's always fun to make them have to be like, oh, I was worried for no fucking reason. I'm sorry. So like sometimes you do get some people that are going to be a little bit doubtful, but you definitely don't get the toxicity that you have in World of Warcraft, because those people, if they had seen that you were new, they would vote kick you. That they could be so toxic. I shouldn't say be like as though that's still current information. Like I've played a little bit of World of Warcraft recently, but I haven't gotten into any dungeons or anything like that. So I'm honestly not super up to date with where the community is at now. But when I did play, like if I were to have said, hey, I'm new, they would typically try to vote kick me. And I would know because my husband would be in the party with me, and he would typically say, well, you better vote kick me too if you actually are successful kicking her, because otherwise I'm going to make this suck ass. And typically they'd vote kick him too. And he's just like, well, if they're going to be like that, I don't want to play with people that are like that if they're going to be like that. Like there's no sense in that. Okay. I was gonna say, I highly doubt I have the materials for making these quickly. I'm just gonna see if I could get these Crystarian benches, because like now I know I have some benches on hand. And if these are expensive, I might just use the benches that I have on hand. But talking about Shadowbringers now, I kind of want to use the Crystarian benches and kind of bring some more of those vibes into here, just because like I already have some of these trees that are Lakeland style, and then yes, the WoW community could definitely be more serious. By the time I stopped playing, that was when a lot of the community was getting really toxic about mythic keystones and all that stuff. they get very hardcore in content, and like a lot of the times if I find someone in Final Fantasy 14 that's being toxic about raiding and say that, oh, well, a normal raid is not raiding, they are typically the people of World of Warcraft that were like, well, if you're doing looking for raid, that's not the same as raiding. Like, a raid is a raid. I understand you're not being as like competitive about it and shit, but it's still called a raid. And like like in Final Fantasy 14, Savage raiding has its own tier. You would call it Savage raiding. Like, but a raid's still a raid. Oh, okay. I had a feeling these were going to be super cheap. I'm just going to buy the 4 cheap ones there. But yes, the WoW community can get very... At the very least, when I last played, they were a lot more serious and a lot more intense. And I don't completely think that has changed. I am still in some WoW communities. And they will totally watch their logs to see who exactly or which classes are at the top of the damage meters, which ones are at the bottom, and all that stuff. And they get very, very nitpicky as far as what classes you are playing. For instance, during Cataclysm, this was original launch Cataclysm, not the remastered crap, whatever. The classic Cataclysm. Like it's not the classic. Like I'm talking about OG when it actually launched. I typically played Subtlety Rogue. There were 3 different types of rogues. There's Subtlety, Assassination, and at that time it was called Combat. I hated Combat Rogue with a passion. I typically played Subtlety because I like to go invisible, sneak around. I also played on a PvP server, so I liked being able to have a better PvP toolkit for self-defense moments when I'm just trying to quest. And for dungeons and stuff, I wouldn't even say anything and people would vote kick me from their party because apparently it was the lowest damaging rogue because they were like, no, you need to be assassination or combat. Subtlety Rogue is way lower on the meters, and that's not okay with us. For a standard dungeon, by the way, not even a raid, and not even like a high-end raid or anything like that. We are talking a very standard dungeon. Don't get me wrong, when Cataclysm originally launched, those dungeons, as I said, like you had to micromanage a lot of different things and be very nitpicky as far as who was crowd controlling what, who was doing what at each particular time, even in standard dungeons. But it was still a matter of, because I was a Subtlety Rogue, I couldn't sit with them. Basically. Like, it was totally Mean Girls. And to an extent, people still get like that, because I constantly see meters get posted up of where, like, the top 99 percentile is at, for instance. And people will bitch and moan if their class and spec are not at the top. And which to some extent I do get, because with some of the jobs that they have and classes and stuff, whatnot, I call it jobs just because I'm so used to 14 at this point. But with the classes, there are typically 3 specs for each of them. And some of them with the different specs, like, for instance, with Demon Hunter, which came out during Legion. That one, depending on the spec, could be a damage dealer or a tank. So it was pretty flexible. So one would argue that a class like Rogue, where all three specs are damage, should do more damage than one that is more flexible. Especially ones that are like Druid, where a Druid could be Druid is ridiculous in World of Warcraft because Druid could be a melee DPS, it could be a caster DPS, it could be a healer, or it could be a tank. It has 4 specs. There were plenty of times, like that's where people especially did not like that I played Subtlety Rogue, because the melee DPS spec for Druid, it's very similar to Subtlety Rogue, just doesn't quite have the same toolkit because it's more flexible. But it was doing more damage. And people were like, excuse me, no. Go make a new character and play Druid if you want to be a Subtlety Rogue. Like, don't want to play Druid, though. I want to play Subtlety Rogue. But yeah, it was definitely a very different experience playing World of Warcraft as opposed to Final Fantasy XIV. And I'm sure it's different now than what it was back then. Just because, I mean, games evolve, communities evolve with those games. Like, there are people like me that, like, have either partially come back or, like, still haven't come back from the game, you know? Like some people have, like, on and off moved on. Some people have permanently moved on. Like, so I'm sure the community has changed to an extent. But overall, based upon my experiences, yes, the 14 community is way more open and way more helpful overall. Now, if you have like friends that play World of Warcraft and stuff, like that would be like an exception moment. Like when you have a friend that plays World of Warcraft, typically your friend is going to be helpful. Like having my husband play World of Warcraft with me was so helpful. Like there's no way I would have ever survived that game if I went in as a solo player. Even though there were still plenty of times I would play World of Warcraft solo, but if I went in as a 100% solo player, like didn't know anybody like I did coming into Final Fantasy 14, I wouldn't have survived. I would have been a goner. Like that's just how it would have boiled down. Especially since like I am a female gamer, and like one of my first experiences playing World of Warcraft, I was very basic. I made a human because I was told I had to play Alliance, and it was extremely limited as to what your options were when I first started playing. So I just stuck with human. And 15 minutes into playing, I had a guy send me a direct message asking me if I was a boy or a girl. Well, I'd gotten stuck on something, so my now husband, at the time we were only dating, but my now husband was like, he was like, I'm a dude. And they're like, oh. And he's like, why are you even asking me that? Well, I've been scammed before, but thank you. And like blocked. And so like that person was looking for something, and it was just so creepy. So as far as my husband playing Final Fantasy 14, he hasn't played in a while, but he did start playing Final Fantasy 14 so that he could play the game with me. He started playing during Endwalker. So he started playing quite a while after I had already started playing. Actually, I take that back. He did start a character in Shadowbringers, but he kept not getting into it. But then he finally started getting into it more when we got into some more in-game content. But also a partial reason as to why he started getting more and more into it was because at that point, so last expansion in Endwalker, I did do Savage raiding. And he really wanted to do some Savage raiding. And like, unfortunately at this point, like, with having our daughter and everything, he and I both don't have time right now to do Savage raiding, but I'm sure that it'd be something that I could convince him to come back and play more Final Fantasy 14 with me if we both were to have time to do Savage raiding. Because I do think that that is a part of the content that he would really enjoy doing. But for a lot of his leveling experience, we were that typical couple of doing the husband-wife healer-tank duo. I was the healer and he was the tank. And at first with leveling, he was playing paladin. But then, especially as he was looking into Savage raiding, I told him that he should level warrior as well, because I think that he would have an easier time, because he also has anxiety. Not quite to the extent that I do, but he's also was like, you know, I'm anxious about going into Savage raiding and stuff. I was like, well, I think that going in as a warrior will help with that anxiety, especially at first. Just like for me, when I first went into Savage raiding, I originally was playing Red Mage when I was doing that raiding. Nowadays, or well, by the end of my Savage raiding, I was playing was playing Ninja. I played quite a few different jobs for Savage, but by the end of all of it, I was Ninja for maining that. Okay, I definitely need to lift those up just a little bit more. Wiggle that off. Is that, oh, that's the Mahogany Aqueduct. Shoot. Shoot. Let me target that. Let me target it. Yes, totally the dark side of MMOs. Like, definitely got to see the dark side of it. Being a female trying to play World of Warcraft, definitely got to see it, and it's something that I'm like, yeah, I could have gone without that in my life. Let's get this placed a little bit more accurately. Let's see if I can get it to attach. There now, yes, okay. Excuse me, why did you go down? Of course I'm gonna grab those steps now. Because why wouldn't I grab steps? There we go. I would say for Savage raiding there for a little bit. So we were talking about Reaper earlier. One of, like, for a little bit during Savage raiding, I did play Reaper. I'm going to switch to go this direction. Part of the reason, so my Savage rating experience, I went from playing, I started off as a red mage, because I ended Shadowbringers as a red mage main. So going into Endwalker and going into Savage rating, I wanted to primarily stick with red mage. But I did have quite a few different jobs leveled, and I was like, okay, I'm somewhat comfortable flexing to something else if need be, but red mage is what I am most comfortable being. And so that's what I got to end up playing for Savage rating. But then not super long after we started, we had an opening and we had to recruit someone. And it ended up that the person that we recruited only had red mage leveled at that time. So fortunately at that point, I already had some other jobs leveled, but I already had some gear from Savage. Since I already had that gear, it was easiest for me to flex the summoner. But honestly, you don't really want to have two casters in a party for an ideal Savage rating combination. So for the second tier, I swapped the ninja. I was anxious as all hell about swapping the ninja, by the way. Like, I had so much anxiety switching off of caster and going to melee because I felt so rusty when it came to melee. Even though, like, when I first started playing Final Fantasy XIV, I started off as a melee, and then it wasn't until I hit level 60 that I unlocked Dancer that I swapped off of melee. But it was like, it was definitely a completely different beast to try and play melee in that level of content, because it's just a matter of you have to worry about maximum range for your melee hits to land and all of that stuff. So much more than what you have to worry about it for in other content. So I was so anxious about the swap. Like, I remember one of the first days that we were trying me out as playing a melee, I had to take anxiety medicine, and it was my first time taking that. And I know I accidentally lifted that up, but I'm kind of hoping that it'll just go back to where it was. But then not super long into that tier, it ended up that okay, good. It just went back to where it was. It ended up after that tier, the server started having some weird ticks, and Ninja especially is a very fast-moving job. And so I swapped the Reaper because its rotation moves a lot slower. So those weird server ticks did not affect my rotation nearly as much as it did Ninja. Like Ninja, I literally couldn't even do my ninjutsu. So I swapped to Reaper for a while, and I had an absolute blast playing Reaper. Like, Reaper is so much fun, and on top of that, all of those large sweeping abilities are so beautiful, and like it's just it has such amazing animations, and I think it is an absolutely fantastic job, and it's so much fun. But of the tanks, I would say that Dark Knight definitely has the best animations. I used to hate playing Dark Knight, but then with my Savage group, one of our last raid nights, we had decided that we were going to be doing quote unquote worst jobs, and like we had to, like, we spun a wheel and we got to pick jobs for each other. The job that was picked for me was Dark Knight, and I actually had a good time playing Dark Knight for that. But we didn't end up doing like actual Savage. We were doing extreme trials for it, so it was lower stakes, but it was still a lot of fun. Yes, you gotta know when you could be greedy. And on top of that, like Ninja can have like some moments where it's a little strange compared to some of the other melees as far as like its burst, for instance. So like with the Rubicante Extreme Trial, for instance, like for an ad phase, I was like, well, I can't properly burst because these ads are going to go down too fast, and my 2 minute buff for you guys is a single target. So that's just, it's not going to have the impact as if it were just on a single target and we're all hitting that single target. Whereas with Reaper, your buff just goes out to your party and it's just like, hey, I could do this when I want to. But so it was like there was like some extra complexity with Ninja that also made me a little extra anxious. That I didn't have to worry about that playing Red Mage or Summoner, or even when I ended up playing Reaper, I didn't have to worry about it playing Reaper. So yeah, it was definitely definitely hard. And yeah, I could totally see getting the so I know I'm like super late chiming in on this question with the I see what you mean for the, as a guy playing a Vieira, getting the random hey you questions. Yeah, I could totally see that. Especially with the Vieira. I could, yeah, I could totally see that being a thing, because like people just get curious about that stuff, especially when it comes to like, I feel like honestly I don't get it as much as Vieira though. Weirdly enough, I mostly got those because originally, and I hate to admit it, my character originally was a Here. She wasn't long lived as a Here, but she was a Here. And oh my gosh, the number of times I got hit on as a Here, as a female Here. And I was a midlander. I wasn't even a Highlander, you know? Like I was super basic. And I looked basic. And I mostly looked super basic because I thought that would get me left alone. And that was not the case. I got so many tells. But the moment I used a Fantasia and swapped the cat girl, that stopped. And joined an FC. Like, joining an FC really shut it all down. Like, when I wasn't in an FC and I was by myself, that was when the creepo messages especially were bad. But the second I was like in an FC, seemingly had backup and everything, it's like, oh, well, don't have to worry so much about that. Let's see. I don't know that I like those lanterns, but I do like these ones. These wooden work lanterns. I think those look good in this little space over here. Put a couple of these out. Because they look nice and florally. I can't even say floral. No, I just can't say it. But they look like they go pretty well in the space. I'm also going to put a little lantern over there. Just to add some extra lighting. It's not super fancy. And to add some fanciness, I could always add some rugs to this. Rugs, fortunately, aren't as bad to lift up, but especially if you are wanting to lift a rug up off the floor, similar method to with the panels, typically something like the flooring mat can properly help with getting that little edge to help get that initial little oomph to get it off the ground a little bit. But these can all be lifted up. A lot of people actually use like in my personal house, I have a lot of flooring mats lifted up so that way it's the ceiling. And then, yeah, for real, it could truly, truly, truly be like an experience to try and be solo. So, like, honestly, like when I first joined the FC that I was in, like, I didn't talk to anyone for the longest time. And I was like, you know what? I am staying here. Even if I don't talk to anybody, I don't care. I'm staying here because it got these creeps to leave me alone. I did eventually become social because then COVID hit, and then it was like, okay, now I need people to actually socialize with. But like at first it totally was a matter of just trying to survive as a woman playing a video game, being like, you know what, people are leaving me alone now. I will totally take this. Okay, I'm not going to use that floor mat. I don't really care for it. Okay. Looks like we are at an ad break, but I do want to see if I want to add some rugs to this little area. Just out of curiosity. I'm kind of leaning towards a no. And just letting the space speak for itself as it is, rather than adding more to it with a rug. Because like the Charlene rug, for instance, is just going to be too big and it's going to hide a lot of that beautiful stonework. The Field of Hope rug, I do love the Field of Hope rug. It is an absolutely beautiful rug, but I feel like it would also, again, take away from the space. And on top of that, it would be hard to glitch this to feel natural in that space. It'd be different if I had more of this pond showing and being able to line the bottom of the pond a little bit more with it. Like I could see that being absolutely stunning. But I just don't have much showing. That is definitely way too big for that space. So that stencil I'm not using. The Courvoisier rugs don't really... Like most of these do not really meet the vibe of the space here. Yeah, so I think that at the very least for now, I am going to call that space good. So that way we can focus the rest of the stream on that kitchen area. Okay. So this kitchen area, I've only got one window with a curtain. And it's just this half-tied curtain at the moment. And I think it's one that I happened upon. I can't remember if it was gifted to me or if it was something that a retainer stole it from somebody's house and brought it back. Because those retainers do like to be swiping things. But again, I do want to see if I potentially have... Oh, it'd be a wall mounted. Silly me. Okay, I for sure have at least some of the materials. It doesn't surprise me that I don't have those already made. They are clean. Okay, I've got a ton of those made. But let's see, do I have the... Oh, I've got plenty of materials to be able to make this. Okay. I'm going to make some of these curtains. Because there's no sense in buying from the market board if I already have the materials. And on top of that, typically, if I didn't have the materials and I wasn't streaming, I probably would have done a little bit more to see if I could save by buying the materials for those benches that I made over there, but I was like, So with these waterfalls that are happening here, these are actually waterfall partitions. So they are just a regular decoration that is happening. And there are some waterfalls that are also decorations. But these ones that are here, these ones are partitions, and then these stone waterfalls here are just a regular flooring item. I believe those ones are called the Oasis waterfall or something like that. But then these ones are waterfall partitions. Hey, Lethal, how's it going? It is decorating time. I wanted to get those retainers sorted back out because a bunch of them were not selling on the market boards because they're like, you haven't talked to me in a week. How dare you? I'm like, I know. How dare I have a life and not talk to you for a week, retainers? By life, I mean decorating a house anytime I'm on the game. Okay, I understand that whoops. Go back to that. Okay, so I need... So it's 4 per... I should probably figure out exactly how many of these I need. That way I'm not auto-crafting too many of them. Oh, I really just need 2. For some reason in my brain, I thought I needed more than that. So I really... just need to make 5 of these. So that's not going to take long at all to make. And then some other time I could probably make them all into the cloth because I don't know that those leaves particularly craft into anything else. I would have to check. Let's see. Search for recipes using this material. Okay, so like that's probably one thing I've ordered it for. Even though I'm probably never going to make that water fountain myself. Okay, and it also does get made into the fat cat sofa. So, okay, so there are some reasons for me not to actually take the grass and craft it all specifically into the cloth. So that's probably why I haven't already done that. Whereas, like, these bowls don't go into too many other things. They do. Oh, it also goes into fat cat sofa. But I made it all into the velvet, I think. I don't think I kept many of those. Yeah. I don't know what my logic was. I'm going to go with I had absolutely no logic. I had no logic happening there in my head. And I do apologize if it takes me longer than usual to respond to everybody. Like, I'm like especially noticing this particular stream is like there's definitely a much larger latency with this stream because this is my first time trying out with Twitch the enhanced broadcasting and also trying to incorporate the dual streaming format. Because you have to have the enhanced broadcasting in order to have the option to do the regular canvas as well as the vertical canvas both. So that way it optimizes based upon whatever platform that you're on. And I was like, I really wanted to, whoops, I guess I do want to dye these. I have no idea what, of course. I don't have those in my inventory right now. I must have this as like a bright teal or something. It might get dyed a different color. You know what? I have 10 of those wide spectrum dyes. I could just grab some more of those wide spectrum dyes. It's not that big of a deal. But anyhow, there's a much larger latency when that is enabled, apparently, from my computer. Because with enabling that, I have set up my multi-streaming very differently than normal. I'm probably going to adjust that to just hopefully work better in the future. Because I could see that like my frame rate is not very good with stream, and my lag in general with stream just in general is really long. Have a wonderful night, fruit juice. And I'm sorry that you're probably hearing me say have a wonderful night like way after you actually sent the message, because the latency be real. The latency be really, really long by the looks of things. So I do apologize. I'm definitely going to mess with that to hopefully do everything that I can to reduce the latency as much as I possibly can without reducing quality, and also like actually get the quality back up to, being good. Yeah, I was like, I'd forgotten I had gotten the email about it till shortly before starting stream today, and I was like, I really want to do this enhanced broadcasting. I really want to try to give everybody the best stream I possibly can. Yes, place it. Not up there, damn it. Oh. Nope, 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 nope. So the one thing about Linux sometimes it will accidentally place that on the window. I don't want it to be on the window. Is it sometimes can be really weird about the num lock. And I have to constantly toggle the num lock. So like right now it's actually toggled off because the game thought it was already off, but I actually already had it on from doing stuff on my computer before. So it's like, it acts a little strange sometimes. Okay. Nope, I don't like where that's at. There we go. So that way my character's not in the way. So for those of you on mouse and keyboard, the keybind for going into first person view like I am now, the default for it is just home. Come on, what? I don't understand what's happening right now. There we go. I was like, I don't understand what is happening. Why is it like acting so weird with my targeting? There we go. That way it's not completely resting on the window like a weird curtain. Okay. Version color. I don't want them to be that bright blue. Like I think, because I don't think I'm going to be using these tables. But I don't want to do the bright teal in here. And I feel like I've got plenty of other colors that I could experiment with. Like I could definitely do some stuff with some purples. But honestly, Gobi Bag Brown is a nice muted brown, as is Shale Brown, but Shale Brown doesn't have quite as much contrast. So I'm just going to do the Gobi Bag for now. I don't know what I hit. Oh, I don't want to dye the table. Just so that they're all the same color for now, because it will totally bother me if they're not the same color. Okay, let me get out of first person, because so truth moment here with first person and me. going into first person mode, I can't play first person games very well, by the way. Like, I get so motion sick when I play video games in first person mode. I can't do it for very long. That, or I have to take Dramamine before I play a game that I know is going to be in first person. Like, I really tried for, like, there was like a little bit that I tried playing a first person shooter, for instance, and oh my gosh, I would play for like maybe 30 minutes and I'm like, I gotta stop playing this because I am so ridiculously motion sick that I need to go sit in the corner and stare at the wall for a while. Like, I literally just, I was like, no, I cannot. I cannot. Like, first person games just, like, I have to at least have the option to move into a third person view set and be able to move the camera separately from the character. Because otherwise, I can't do it. I cannot do it. I probably don't have on hand exactly what I want to do for in here. And honestly, I don't even know exactly what I want to do for in here as far as like tables and stuff goes. I just wanted to do something different that wasn't like the reason I was using these country tables and sets was because before with the lower item limit, so like I still have over 150 item slots left for this kitchen space. And I mean, not just for this kitchen space, but also for like some other fine details. Like I still need to put something up over top of this here, probably do a little bit more to decorate out here. But still, I have at least 100 items that I can still place in this kitchen area. And this is not that big of a space. I mean, compared to a small plot, this is a huge ass space. Like my personal small plot, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is more than half of the basement right here. But I like those tables because they came with the chairs. So it's like, okay, that would have normally been 5 items right there. And when you had those limitations, being able to place 1 item instead of 5 was so much better. But overall, I don't necessarily like the look because the country vibe doesn't necessarily go super well with more of the classical stuff that I'm kind of going with here. So I do want to see what other options that they have that could potentially work with this kitchen space that's still warm and inviting. Just maybe goes a little bit better. That doesn't really like that. That looks kind of like that would go in more of a spooky kind of thing. Or at least in the current space, it looks a little too spooky for the vibe. I do think that this rustic log table goes better with the very natural looking vibes that are going on here, but only if it's like, okay, if there's like a stool that just looks like a log stool, which I don't remember in this game if there is one, because now my brain is sort of thinking of some of the stools in Animal Crossing, and I'm like, I know Animal Crossing because my daughter literally, if I say, do you want to play a game? She'll go crossing, 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 crossing. So we've been playing a decent amount of Animal Crossing lately and been working on her island and stuff. And I know that it has stools that look like they are just stumps. But I don't think that there's necessarily one that is a stump, but there's still some natural looking chairs that could potentially go with this table. But I definitely want something that is a little bit more natural looking that goes with the vibe a little bit more. Like this elegant table, not that, that doesn't look right. Guild Levy counter doesn't look right. Corner counter doesn't look right. Like just the general style of them just doesn't, like, no. let's see. So there's the rustic log table. That's my current front runner. I do like this. Like, this table is very nice for like having as like a coffee table somewhere. So like it's something that I will probably add to favorites. Like if I have the extra space, like downstairs, I might be able to sneak that in a few places. But not right now. Like not up here. And like I know I could make the Glade stuff work, especially since the Glade is your Gridania themed stuff. So I'm like, I know I could make that work. But I don't think it works quite as well as that the log does necessarily, as far as the vibe goes. However, there are a few caveats with that because I have to keep in mind a couple things with this. One is I feel like, especially when decorating for a group of people, if it were me wanting to socialize with a group of people more than just one or two, I would prefer to be at a round table as opposed to a long rectangular table personally. Because I feel like with a rectangular table, you're side by side and like it's more awkward to socialize in a group than if you were to have a round table. So the Glade table, I think I can make work. My only thing is that with this round table, it is relatively small, but I do feel like that is something that is a little bit better for a conversation. If it were to get more into like people wanting to like actually be like, okay, we're having a conversation and our characters are sitting in game, for instance. The Tuliolo stuff, I love how all the Tuliolo stuff looks. Just doesn't quite work. The Everkeep stuff, definitely too modern. The Moogle stuff, but it's just too distinct and doesn't quite work. I love the Otter table so much, but that orange clashes with all the dark. So I might do a combination of like a couple Glade round tables and some of those now my brain is the rustic log tables. So I'm going to add that to favorites. And then with the chairs, it'll probably just be some sort of basic stool. Like that, that doesn't really go. Oh, there's a rustic log bench. There we go. That could work with that longer table really, really well. And then I can do some stools, or I can do some of the other more woody looking chairs with the Glade table. Okay. Oh, hey, I actually do have some mossy logs. Okay. Yes, because this was, as soon as I saw, so this is another hint that something is potentially a submarine crafted item. Is it calls for one of something that doesn't, like, it's not a whetstone, and it's not a bar, and it's not, like, it doesn't look like it's a finished piece. Like, this is just a log, as opposed to, like, what we see with some of, like, it's not a piece of lumber. Like, it's not finished off or anything like that. It's just left in its log form, and there's only one of them. It's like, this is probably going to have something to do with with the submarines that we see in our free companies. And this one does because it says less clear how it came to be lodged at the bottom of the sea. So this, the mossy log part is potentially going to be something that would be expensive if you have to buy it from the market board. I do have 5 of them in my inventory, so, or in my retainers inventory, so I can at least make some of these things. I'm actually going to get rid of the table so that way I could also look at the bench. Okay, so I can make like 3 benches and 2 tables. I'm going to look on the market board just to see what that mossy log is going to cost. I'll treat this a little bit more like how I would do a proper searching of items. Because I am lazy, I typically would check my market board first, just to kind of get an idea. That's actually not a bad price. That's actually way lower than what I was expecting, especially for something that comes from a submarine. But the thing is this might be an older submarine piece, or come from a map that a lot of people have just sent a lot of voyages out on. But you could also click on the little paper when you search on a market board, and it will give you the history. And you can see from the history is that though I said, oh, hey, this is not a bad price, it's higher than the prices that we have seen. So here, I'm also going to look at the finalized crafted pieces. Okay. Finalized crafted pieces are about 1.5 and 300. So I don't want to pay that kind of price. I'd rather just buy the log. So I need to look online. Let me switch to screen share here. There we go. And I switched to Firefox. That's why I didn't have the Universalis app bookmarked like I do on Chrome, because like I'm transitioning a whole bunch of different things. So I want to double check the Universalis app to see what the mossy log is going to look like. So it's just universalis.app. Also in the Discord server, I can't remember exactly what command it is with the CupoBot, but you can also check with CupoBot in Discord as far as those prices go. And then you can double check prices. You could check wherever you would like to see what the prices are going to be. That's what I would do to try to get myself the absolute best price that I can get for that mossy log, as opposed to potentially overpaying. Looking at the Universalis at the moment, it looks like a lot of people haven't been getting those back, because the RNG, how it works with the submarines, tends to be similar to what we see with like our retainers. How it tends to, I'm going to switch back to the gaming scene. How it tends to like switch around. Like there for a while, you could see nothing but Bombocos coming over and over and over again. And then it will switch to Alpha Stuffies, and Alpha Stuffies are coming over and over and over and over again. The submarines kind of have a similar rotation kind of deal happening. And on top of that, you have fluctuating chances as far as what you're going to get back on those maps. So like it could be that there for a while we had a lot of mossy logs coming back, and we're not seeing as many of those mossy logs nowadays. So you could see quite a bit of fluctuating, and based upon like looking at the prices and how low they were, and the fact that this is actually not much higher than the lowest price on my data center, like That tells me that it's kind of swung away from that being a common drop. But honestly, for something that is pretty RNG, like unless they're specifically going for it like that, I'm like that 50,000. It's not that bad, especially when new housing items that require submarines to get those components come out. Those type of things can get really, really expensive. So like seeing 50,000, like I honestly was not expecting that. Where are they? There they are. I was like, I know they're somewhere in here. Okay. So that way this way I can make, didn't even think about the fact that I don't have any varnish. Terebinth is a vendor item. I have 7 ambers. Okay. That's cheap enough. Let's see. I don't need to look at varnish. I've got plenty of varnish now. Okay. But let's see. So I need to make 2 tables and 3 benches. I do think I have enough for most of the materials. The varnish, though, is where I am, though. Let's see. I've already forgotten how many things of varnish are needed. So, okay, so I need 6 for each of these, so I need a total of 36. So I do need a little bit more, just because I have a tendency to go through some varnish. I'm just gonna go ahead and I guess I could have bought the 2 because they were the exact same price, but you know, whatever. They named themselves. They named their retainer Pusheen the Stuffy. They deserve the extra gill from me buying more than what I needed. Okay. Oh, I didn't switch my class to carpenter. Of course I did it. Why would I switch my class to the correct crafting job? Why would I do the appropriate work for all of this? Like, that makes absolutely no sense. Like, why would I do the correct thing here? Okay, so I just need 2 of these tables, and then I want 3 benches, or 4 benches. So that way I have a bench for each side, and then I might have, I might put like an individual chair at the head and foot of the table. A few more. There we go. And I think that should be everything. Yes, because I am out of mossy logs, so that should be everything. I forgot that. So I definitely have the space because I don't want this right there. It may go somewhere else, but not right as I step in the front door. Besides that, I don't like that assaulting me as soon as I walk in. I'm actually going to turn the grid snap on. This is such an interesting piece when it's all together like this. Or an interesting set. I'm kind of wondering, okay, so I didn't dye these before. Oh. I really like this. Because it's like the inside of the wood, you can stain it to be, or you can paint it so it kind of feels like a stain instead of a solid paint, because you still have the grain that's happening there. And it's like you could stain it to kind of look like a different kind of wood, or have it feel like it's a wash. So that's really interesting. I definitely don't want to do the sunset orange. I'm just personally in real life, I'm not a fan of the orangey looking stains. And I used to love like the more reddish stains. Like I used to love like that rust red, like that would be, those would be absolutely stunning colors. I used to absolutely love those types of colors, but now I've kind of grown more into the more of a true brown stain, or even something that's a little bit more of a grayish kind of color. But for now, I might just leave the color the way that it is until I can get those tables into here. I might set this up by the window here. Even though it does put me close to to the jail there. So, okay, it put me a little bit closer to the jail than I wanted. So I guess I'll scoot this back away so that way you can still get into jail without having to do some weird shimmy. If this were real and you didn't like completely go through the pixels. Okay. I'm kind of going to stagger those longer tables. And I kind of have the round tables going around. There we go. I was like, I can't see because the ceiling light. I can't see what's happening. There we go. Oh, I kind of actually want to center that a little bit more with that planner. And get a little bit closer to the wall. There we go. Don't know that I want that piece there. I will figure out what's going to go on these tables afterwards, because that'll be how I go about doing like food and stuff. Okay. I definitely want to get stuff onto the wall as well. Like, even if it is just a couple stained glasses, just to give the wall something. I'm gonna place that on the wall for now. It might stay, it might not. I just definitely want to get some stuff onto these walls to decorate them a little bit more. Let's see if there's anything else that I for sure I'm like, I need to put this on the wall. We might get some of these fairy lights. That's a cute little lamp. I feel like goes with everything pretty decently well. Let me move a little bit further this way. I mean, I don't even think, yeah, not even with the right color that would. And of course, I do like the Sylphic light lantern or wall lantern, but it's pretty small. It's not going to end up taking up too much space. That's the Glade. That. Oh, Neris, I'm so sorry that you're. I'm so sorry. That's no fun. That is absolutely not fun at all. I am so sorry that your computer did that. Ooh, I like the Gobu. I like the Gobu. At least for stream today, like stream today is like really is very chill. So not a whole ton going on. So have no fear. Okay, I definitely want to put chromometers in. Like, I want to put one in here. Say, or pretty much already have a giant size one out there. Yeah, that really is no fun. Like, to have your controller just be like, nope, nope, done working. Like, That is absolutely not fun whatsoever. Like, that's... I am so sorry. Like, that sucks. That absolutely sucks that happened. I don't know that I really care for any of those shelves. Let's see. Nope, none of those. I don't know that I necessarily want to add more windows. I mean, maybe I could add one more window like right here and hang it up like I have those ones. That'd probably help. Like just get one more of these. Not the imitation shutter. I do have the imitation shutter in my personal, and they do look really nice, especially when they're hung backwards so you don't have the shutters and you're just looking at the backside. But I have the imitation curtained is what's on the walls. And you're looking at the back sides of those for what's right here. I can't remember if we have an extra of that one. I don't think... Oh, we do. Okay. I'm actually going to hang one of those. Let's do that real quick. I want to make sure that... Whoops. That the height that I place this at is going to be about the same height as that. Because you don't want your windows to be off. Okay, so it needs to come down. That was for sure way too far. Damn it. Okay. So lining it up, it's like a little bit below that bolt. Okay, just a little bit higher. That... It's like a pixel off. I didn't realize I was leaning so far forward that I was about to headbutt my microphone there. Okay, I think that's just about right. Okay. Okay. I'll wiggle that, move this away. And that's pretty close to center between those two. And move that to be between there. There we go. So that way I don't need quite as many wall decorations. I actually think it's off center now. Like, of course, now that I got rid of the partition and actually had it fairly decently moved away. Before I get rid of that. Yeah, it's still off. Let's get this better centered. Move that out of the way so I can see a little bit better. Okay, so I'm like a small photo frame. Okay, I don't think I'm gonna get it 100% perfect, especially with grid snap. But I can at least get it closer. Yes, I absolutely love this little tiny tortoise. He's so cute. Um, and like when he spins around, he has gill throwing out everywhere. It's really cute. Like he's absolutely adorable. Of course, I need 4 more of these. So that way I can make 1 more curtain here, put it on that window, decorate more around the walls, probably do some more greenery up around the ceiling and everything, but some more standard wall decorations lower down, just to really complete that dark earthy vibe. Oops, I didn't mean to hit synthesize. Okay. Yes. Okay, so it's being a lot less stingy about placing onto the wall since I don't have a window that's underneath of that one. Sometimes wall hangings like this can get really stingy because the other ones are hung up in front of windows. That's what those ones are hiding, but this one's not hung in front of a window, so it's not being stingy. Let's see. Don't think I had anything else that was already in my inventory that I was like, okay, I definitely want to get this onto the lower part of the wall because I'm like, I've definitely used plenty of these heavenly ornamental arrays, particularly over here in my little classroom that's happening. Like I've used 4, like right there. I do think for the kitchen over here, I'm going to put up some antique shelves. Look. And not worry about them being like super, super, super nice. Place some towels on that shelf. That's why it's not placing, because I don't even have counter placement put on. Whoops, I guess I could actually look like it's on the shelf instead of falling off the shelf. And I'll probably add some more items that are just small and look like they belong in a kitchen onto this shelf. Just to kind of help with that particular portion of the space. And up above, probably do more of the curtains that I seem to love so much. These ones, the ivy curtains. I seem to love these things. Ivy curtain, there we go. For those that are in vertical, I want to move that over so you can see it highlight on there. I seem to love these ivy curtains a lot, and they come up a lot in my designs. Even though I have some that are pretty good as far as greenery goes for that wall mounting up here, they aren't nearly as dense as what this is, and they don't they don't contribute nearly as well to the space. I was making sure that I put the stage panel back away. Yeah, so I'll probably put some more, at least along those two walls. This wall, I'm not 100% sure what all is going to go onto this particular wall. Over here, I will probably do something other than the ivy curtains to add some fun, earthy feeling vibes to this particular wall. And as I said, I'm going to add the glade round tables and some stools into the space to extra add in some more seating, more places for my free company to be able to hang out and all of that jazz. I'm also going to add this piece right here. Here we go. Actually might move the pots and pans to be right there and then put because the bottles would have been really hard to get out if they were right underneath the shelf like I had them. Where's the pots and pans? Actually, will look a little less cluttered up here. Even though those are really hard to reach, that's what the step stool's for. Like, Lalafels must be supervised, I guess, when it comes to getting pots and pans. You know, there are a couple that are over here for the oven. If they want the strainers and stuff like that, they need to ask somebody for some help. I think that I might actually, I know I said I wasn't going to use more of these. I think I'm actually going to go ahead and place a couple over here. Center that up a little bit better. And then the wall climbing ivy. So the wall climbing ivy, it's like, this is okay. It just doesn't contribute nearly as much as the ivy curtains do. Like, it's okay. It's not bad. It just doesn't contribute nearly as much, which is why I tend to use the curtains more than I use the climbing ivy. But I think that especially since I'm layering it with something, it's not as bad. Okay. So I do have to go ahead and conclude stream. I am absolutely exhausted. It's been a long day. I should be streaming on Sunday. I say should just because I know I've been horrible about cancellations and stuff lately. So that's why I'm going to say the word should because that's when I have scheduled and that's when I plan to stream next. I just don't want to make a promise and then end up having to cancel again or anything like that. But on Sunday, I plan to go ahead and stream as Boba and do a Sprout Sunday. It's been a few weeks since we've done something that's not house decorating. So I do want to do a Sprout Sunday. If I have the house decorated, I will, of course, show off the house just so we can see what everything looks like finalized in this house, what we've been building towards these last few weeks. But I think we could do with some boba time and having her potentially wanting to find someone's kneecaps to take off. Because, you know, when does boba not want to take off somebody's kneecaps, right? So I feel like we could do with that time with her and have it be something that's not decorating for a little bit. With that, if you're not in the Discord, I highly recommend that you join, especially so that you have alerts for when I have my cancellations and everything. Because though I have my Twitch calendar, like for instance, when I have migraines and stuff, I don't update my Twitch calendar. I just don't think to do it. Whereas I do post an update in Discord. Yes, gotta get our Tanya Harding on. I do post in Discord as to when those cancellations are going to happen. So I highly recommend, if you are not a part of the Discord, that you do join that server. If you type !Discord in the chat, it will give you a link to the Discord server to be able to join. There are lots of resources as well on the Discord server that are pretty helpful. They include, for instance, like the Universalis app. That app is included on that Discord server. As I said, there's also CupoBot that can be used. That also does some of that pricing stuff, but CupoBot also does a ton of other stuff beyond all that stuff. So I highly, 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 highly recommend joining that server if you have not joined already. With that, oh, and the stream is scheduled to be from, the next stream is scheduled to be from noon, or not noon, 1 to 3. Sorry, it's weekdays. That's noon to 2. My Sunday stream is scheduled to be 1 to 3. But it will be a Sprout Sunday this upcoming Sunday. With that, I'm going to go ahead and send you all to the ending now screen. Have a wonderful, fantastic night. Thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you also, Euler, for give that link to drop in the chat there. Thank you so much for doing that. And thank you all so much for your patience with me. Thank you all again for joining me tonight, and have a wonderful rest of your Friday. And hopefully I will be able to see you all on Sunday.